Have you ever received a criticism that discouraged you or made you question your choices? If so, you're not alone. No matter what you do, criticism will always arise, whether at work, in your studies, or even in personal projects. The problem isn't the criticism itself, but how you choose to react to it. In this video, I'll show you how to manage these critiques effectively and, more importantly, how to turn them into growth opportunities without losing your cool. Stick with me until the end, and you'll learn how to use criticism to your advantage. The first step in managing criticism without losing your cool is to understand that not all criticism is the same. There are two main types you need to recognize: constructive criticism and destructive criticism. Constructive criticism aims to help you grow. It points out areas where you can improve and offers practical suggestions to enhance your performance. For example, if a colleague tells you that you could improve your presentation by focusing more on the data, they are giving you constructive feedback. Even though it might not be easy to hear, the intention here is to help you evolve. On the other hand, destructive criticism often has nothing to do with what you're doing or how you can improve, but is aimed at you personally. It may come from people with questionable intentions or simply because the other person is frustrated. For example, a comment like, "You'll never get this right," or "This is a waste of time," isn't constructive because it doesn't offer any opportunity for growth. By learning to identify the difference between these two, you can choose the best way to react and avoid falling into the trap of an impulsive response. Now that you know how to identify constructive and destructive criticism, it's important to understand what happens inside you when you receive feedback. Often, our immediate reaction is emotional and even irrational. This happens because, when we receive criticism, especially negative feedback, our brain activates areas related to defense and stress. It's like we're being personally attacked. The psychology behind this has to do with how we perceive our image and our value. When someone criticizes something we did or how we behaved, it feels like our identity is being questioned. This triggers the fight or flight response, an instinctive reaction that prepares us to defend our position or flee from the uncomfortable situation. But while this reaction is natural, it's not always helpful. Instead of responding with anger or feeling vulnerable, the goal is to learn to control this emotional response. One way to do this is by practicing self-awareness. When you realize that you're getting angry or insecure, you can step back, take a deep breath, and reassess the situation more rationally. The good news is that, with time and practice, you can train your brain to react more balanced. By understanding how the psychology of criticism affects our emotions, you gain the ability to respond more calmly and constructively, keeping your focus on what really matters: growth and continuous improvement. Now that we understand the psychology behind criticism and how to identify the types, it's time to turn this experience into something positive. The key here is to shift your mindset. Instead of seeing criticism as something negative and personal, view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Every comment, whether constructive or not, has something valuable that can help you improve. First, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? This simple question completely changes how you approach the situation. Instead of feeling attacked, you put yourself in a learning position. If the criticism is constructive, it brings a clear lesson that you can apply immediately. If it's destructive, it may help you understand where your vulnerabilities are and how to emotionally protect yourself from criticism in the future. For example, imagine you presented a project at work and received feedback saying your reasoning was unclear. Instead of getting frustrated, use this opportunity to improve the clarity in your future presentations. Ask yourself what you could have done differently. What adjustments can you make to communicate your ideas better? This mindset of continuous growth allows you not to dwell on mistakes, but to use them as springboards for success. Instead of reacting defensively, you act proactively, always seeking improvement. Remember, success doesn't come from perfection, but from the ability to learn from failures and keep moving forward. The best way to turn criticism into growth opportunities is to practice this shift in perspective every time something happens. Over time, you'll realize that criticism, far from being an obstacle, is a powerful tool that can take you further. Now that you've learned how to turn criticism into growth opportunities, it's time to move on to the practical aspect: how to really handle them in your daily life. Here are some effective tips you can apply when receiving criticism. 1. Breathe and stay calm. Your first reaction to criticism may be emotional. You might feel anger, shame, or frustration. But before reacting, take a deep breath. This simple gesture helps reduce the intensity of your initial emotion and gives you a pause to think before acting. A moment of breathing might be enough to avoid an impulsive, emotional response. 2. Listen actively. When someone is criticizing you, listen carefully. Don't interrupt them while they're speaking, even if you disagree. Often, by trying to defend your point immediately, you miss the opportunity to fully understand the feedback. Pay attention to the person's words and the intentions behind them. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Focusing on active listening helps create a more open and constructive mindset. 3. Ask for clarity if needed. If the criticism is vague or hard to understand, don't be afraid to ask for more details. Ask questions like, "Can you give me a specific example?" or "How can I improve this?" This not only shows that you're willing to learn, but it also helps turn a generic critique into something actionable. 4. Don't take it personally. Remember that the criticism isn't an attack on you personally, but on what you did or your work. Avoid internalizing the feedback as something about your personal value. By separating your identity from the feedback you receive, you can stay objective and act with more calm. 5. Reflect before responding. After receiving criticism, take time to reflect before responding. This helps you assess the situation more evenly. If needed, take a break and come back to the conversation when you feel calmer. By doing this, you can respond in a more thoughtful way, without being influenced by the emotion of the moment. 6. Use criticism to grow. Once you've processed the criticism and reflected on it, create an action plan. What can you improve next time? How can you become more efficient or assertive? Turning criticism into action plans is one of the most effective ways to use it as a tool for personal growth. These strategies not only help you handle criticism better, but also enhance your communication skills and emotional intelligence, which are essential for success both in professional and personal environments. Nothing is better than real-life examples to show how the strategies we've just discussed can be applied in practice. Let's explore a few inspiring stories of people who knew how to handle criticism constructively and turn it into opportunities for success. Story 1. The entrepreneur who used criticism to expand his business. Imagine a young entrepreneur who launched a tech startup. In the first few months, he received several criticisms about the product, particularly regarding the confusing user interface. Instead of feeling defeated, he listened carefully, analyzed the suggestions, and decided to improve the design. After the product update, customer feedback was much more positive, and the business took off. This entrepreneur understood that criticisms, although hard to hear, were a chance to fix flaws and offer something better to his customers. Story 2. The student who turned criticism into higher grades. A university student, in her first semesters, received harsh criticism from a professor about her essay. Instead of being shaken, she sought to understand what wasn't working and asked for tips to improve. Over time, she focused more on the structure of her writing, reviewed her argumentation techniques, and began to receive much higher grades. She turned a negative criticism into a boost for her academic growth, motivating her to improve even more. Story 3. The artist who faced criticism as creative challenges. An artist starting his career received harsh criticism about his work. Instead of abandoning his passion, he used the feedback to challenge himself and grow as a creator. He started exploring new styles and techniques he hadn't considered before. Today, this artist is recognized in the art world, and those initial criticisms served as a starting point for his creative journey. These stories show that, regardless of your field, criticism doesn't need to be seen as an obstacle. On the contrary, It can be the key to success when you learn to use it as part of your continuous evolution process. Now that we've explored the various ways of handling criticism and turning it into growth opportunities, it's important to reinforce that the process is never easy, but it's incredibly valuable. Criticism is part of anyone's life who seeks to evolve, and how you react to it can determine your success, both personally and professionally. Remember, no criticism is final, and no failure is irreparable. The true power lies in how you handle these challenges and what you do with them. You can choose to react defensively, shut down, or let criticism demotivate you. Or you can choose to use each piece of feedback as a chance to grow, improve, and reach new heights. The second option will undoubtedly bring more benefits and transformations to your life. Now it's up to you. Start applying these strategies whenever you face criticism, and watch how they can change how you see yourself and how others perceive you. If you have a story or experience about how you handled criticism, share it in the comments below. Let's exchange ideas and learn together. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications for more content that will help you with your personal and professional development. See you in the next video. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope today's tips and strategies were helpful in showing you how to handle criticism in a more balanced and productive way. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with anyone who could benefit. See you soon.